In this video lesson, we'll explore the debate between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists over the ratification of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Federalists, who favored the new federal Constitution, sought to silence critics and gain nationwide acceptance of the document by sending it to Congress, which withheld explicit approval but sent it to the states for ratification. Federalists focused their ratification efforts on Delaware, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Connecticut, Maryland, and New Jersey, states with concentrations of political elites who favored a strong central government. Anti-Federalists, who opposed the strong central government, were composed of radical Revolutionary War leaders, states' rights supporters, frontier farmers, debtors, and paper moneyites, in general, the poorer classes. Anti-federalism appealed to those who feared that distant power might infringe on the people's liberties, especially those who believed that elected officials in such a government would be elites unresponsive to the needs of the middle and the poorer classes. The Federalists favored the Constitution as it was written. They were led by Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay. They stressed the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation and argued for a strong central government that was needed to protect the nation and solve domestic problems. They argued that checks and balances would protect against these abuses, and they argued for protection of property rights. They said that the Constitution was a Bill of Rights with limitations and reserved powers for the states, and that state constitutions already had protections in the Bill of Rights in their own constitutions. Anti-Federalists opposed the Constitution as it was written. These men were led by Patrick Henry, Richard Henry Lee, George Mason, and Sam Adams. They wanted a strong state government, and they feared a strong national government. They argued that they created a strong executive similar to the monarchy. They wanted fewer limits on popular participation, and they wanted more common people, not the elite, to be involved in government. And they wanted a Bill of Rights to protect citizens against their government. Federalists wanted political power to flow from intelligent, virtuous, public-spirited leaders like themselves. They did not desire a government comprised of every class of people. Leading Federalists of the day were George Washington, Ben Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, John Marshall, Edmund Randolph, John Jay, and James Madison. Leading anti-Federalists of the day included Patrick Henry, Richard Henry Lee, John Hancock, Sam Adams, James Monroe, George Mason, and Thomas Jefferson. Objections of the Anti-Federalists to the Constitution were its lack of Bill of Rights guaranteeing individual liberties, prohibitions against states issuing paper money, the regulation of time and place for congressional elections, the creation of a District of Columbia, the creation of a standing army, its omission of any reference to God, and the ratification process that required only a 2/3 vote of the states. In May of 1788, 8 states had ratified the Constitution, leaving only one more needed for it to become the country's new governing document. On June 21, 1788, New Hampshire, a small state, ratified, providing the decisive vote needed for approval. Still, Virginia and New York, 2 of the 4 states that withheld ratification, remained outside the Union and were considered necessary for the successes of the new Union. Virginia, which was home to both Federalists and Anti-Federalists, Washington, Jefferson, Mason, Madison, and Randolph, historically had supplied distinguished leadership considered key to the success of the new Union. Federalists secured Virginia's ratification by proposing 20 specific amendments that the new government promised to consider, including a passage of a Bill of Rights. New York, already a trade and financial center, opposed ratification out of reluctance to give up power to a strong central government. In October 1787, Alexander Hamilton, a native New Yorker, John Jay, and James Madison began collaborating in writing the Federalist Papers, a series of brilliant essays on the political philosophy of the new Constitution and the nature of federalism. One essay, Madison's Federalist No. 10, refuted the anti-federalist belief that it was impossible to extend a republican form of government over a large geographic territory. These were published in New York newspapers, and the essays helped win New York's ratification. So by 1790, North Carolina and Rhode Island had also ratified, initiating the new union. The minority had triumphed twice. A military minority of American radicals had overthrown British rule. A military minority of conservatives had peacefully overthrown the inadequate Articles of Confederation to create and ratify the Constitution. Only 1/4 of adult white males in the country were voting for delegates to ratify the Constitution because of the property requirement. But the Constitution embedded the doctrine of self-rule in a self-limiting system of checks and balances among the branches of government. We'll investigate the Constitution and the Bill of Rights in more detail during our class time.